listening to
the Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
So my dog's bed head this morning is pretty crazy. He pops up in the bed like this, like bed otter, with the head just coming straight up and looking around after I get up, and his fur is like everywhere. And then he's able to do that shake though. And, everything's kind of fine after that. I wish we could kind of do that shake in the morning ourselves where we just to start our day.
That would save some time for sure.
Yeah. Welcome to the Bliss Business Podcast, everyone. I'm Steven Sakach, joined by my co-host, Mike Liwski. Today's episode centers on a business strategy that's often overlooked, but always impactful, and that's genuine human connection. So whether you're building a global franchise or running a neighborhood business, the heart of success is often built around that connection and community. Mike, introduce our guest for today's conversation.
Steve, I'm super excited to do that and looking forward to the conversation we're going to have today. So we're excited to welcome Sally Facinelli. She's the CEO of Salty Dawg Pet Salon. And as you look at Sally's career, it really is a master class in entrepreneurship and values-led franchising, which we would love to discuss here on this show. We know our followers love to learn about. And so what began with a love for pets has evolved now into a fast-scaling national brand that's rooted in care for animals, customers, and franchisees. So Sally, we're so interested in hearing more about you and Salty Dawg. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. And maybe, Sally, we'll just dive right in if it's okay with you. How businesses, Stephen was sort of talking in the introduction about how businesses grow with empathy and community and purpose. So question for you, why is community building not just a differentiator, do you feel, but really a necessity when it comes to successful business today?
Yeah, I think it's huge. So one thing, first and foremost, I'm from the franchise world, and it's really a community of entrepreneurs. So franchising is everything from McDonald's to us, an emerging brand. And it's all about a community. It's about people, building trust, building loyalty. And to me, in general, everything starts with relationships. Those are key. Building strong relationships, and the relationships actually create trust, and trust creates the community, right? And that's all anyone ever really wants, is to be part of something, to be part of a community. And for a business, like, communities actually create loyal customers, and that's why they keep coming back. They want to feel like they're part of something. They really want to feel like they're connected. Like products, services, like we're grooming, that's great. That all can be copied, but that trust that we build, that can't be rebuilt and created by somebody else.
Yeah, there was a great quote I actually stole from a mentor of mine. He would always remind us, without a customer, we don't have a company. And
No.
So very true.
Sally, I, when we talk about community, I think sometimes people think building community, it may be they picture like maybe nonprofits or something, or social group or some kind of cause about that. But they don't really think sometimes about business. What do you think helps businesses to kind of think more about that community context, that they can be a community? How do you get there with businesses?
Yeah, so I think you have to start with a holistic approach. For us at Salty Dawg, we're grooming, and some products and stuff like that too, but it's not about the grooming. It's about our mentality. It's all about humanization of the pet. So at a Salty Dawg, and this is in everything we do. It's in every way that we do our business, and every interaction that we have, whether it's a pet parent or pet or whatever. It's how we treat them and how we create that. So in general, when a pet parent walks into a Salty Dawg, they walk in on the right-hand side, it's all glass. They can see what's happening with their pet at all times. The pet's never taken in the back room, held down and groomed really fast and coming back nervous. So we start with that. And then we also have this like give back mentality. Our franchise locations we encourage them to really get involved in their local communities, whether it's at adoption events or their local shelter, their school fundraisers. But not just that, it could be like beer events or, just local, like Encinitas on, I think it's the 26th and 27th of April. It happens twice a year. We have the streets all shut down and we have this big community event where there's like a lot of vendors and things like that. So getting involved in those types of things, but creating that sense of belonging authentically, though, they, really authentically caring about the local community that you're involved in. I think that's really key.
Yeah. And I think that probably, in a franchise model, that'll vary from franchise to franchise, right? So you've really got to help them kind of look out what's going on in your community and encourage that sort of interaction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear you say that, Sally, really around the importance of community, because it seems like a lot of times business has been sort of devoid of engaging in the community, or they think of it as, like Stephen was saying earlier, just a component of some social responsibility. But at the end of the day, our businesses are a really big piece of that. And one of the ways we talk a lot actually on this show about the importance of values. And it seems that, the companies that within the community align their values with those of the community, even their customers, seem to really thrive. In fact, there was a report that we came across not too long ago that was put out by Sprout Social, and I'd be interested in your thoughts around some of these statistics. So they had found that 64% of consumers want brands to connect with their shared values, right? So I think we understand that. And then on top of that, 57% of the respondents said that they would actually think of increasing, their engagement with the organization, increasing their spend if they felt connected. So question for you then, how do you bring values, or, how has Salty Dawg brought in values and connection to life, really? I would say, not with the community, the customer base, but even like the franchisees. Is there, something special that you do
with the franchisees? I mean, for us, it's holistic. It's everything. It starts with pet parents and the pets. It moves into our employees and our customers with the pets and the pet parents, and then also with the franchisees. And it's every interaction. So every pet parent, every franchisee, every day, every interaction, we all are always striving to actually show how much we care, to listen empathetically, to hear what they're saying, to, drive our services, our products, or just everything towards that goal and hearing them. When it comes to like employees, our groomers, they don't just groom pets. They treat the pet like it's a family member, right? Because that pet is a family member. It's somebody's baby, right. Like my cat gets nervous or something, or my dog or whatever gets nervous, and you take care of it. And the pet parent's like, oh, wow, wow, they actually care. They care what they're doing. And when they see that more and more, I think it builds trust.
Yeah, for sure. And like you're saying too, treating it like it's a member of the family, because it really is, right?
It really is. Yeah.
One of the difficult things I think for a lot of businesses, especially in the franchise model, is, you start out maybe with your one location and you've built like the heart of your brand there and everything. And then you start to scale. And this is where things may get a little watered down. How do you ensure when you're scaling that you don't, lose that heart, or you don't get the things that are really important to you, don't get watered down?
Yeah, I think that's tough. I think you have to constantly be doing it, because you can't just do it once and forget about it. It's like, literally in everything that you do, what you breathe, what you think, how you treat yourself, most importantly. So for us, franchising, it's about scaling, but it's not just about scaling a business. It's about sharing our values as far and wide as we can. And by doing that, we can affect as many people as possible. And then I think it really starts at the top. So myself down. So how I treat myself, how I interact with everybody else, the employees that we hire at our headquarters, the people that we partner with, whether those are vendors, our products that we bring in, it's all human grade, all of that stuff, make sure it's like healthy for our pets, to actually consume. And then our franchisees, the people that we align with, who becomes a franchisee, those are our brand stewards. They need to be in alignment with us to be able to bring those values forward. And then it starts in training. So when we bring on, whether it's an employee or a franchisee, how we bring them on, the things that we teach them, we start with the basics of like the be nice culture, which is not my culture. We brought it into our schools, but I didn't start it. One of our original founders, Wynn Claybaugh, who is the founder of Paul Mitchell Schools, has this Be Nice book and the Be Nice culture, which is all about emphasizing kindness, inclusivity, and giving back. So we've brought that into Salty Dawg and continue to perpetuate it. And so everybody that we work with, they need to be in alignment with our values, basically.
Yeah, I think we hear that a lot too. Like you mentioned it, the start of that was like repetition and just keep on, preaching and preaching and preaching, because you can't just put it up once on a wall somewhere. You're never going to be about it that way, right?
No, I mean, it truly has to be who you are and what you are. So if you are pretending to be like that, I mean, you can't continue. You can pretend for a little while, but you can't like actually continue forever, and people will see through it. So you actually need to be authentic.
Yeah. It's got to be a muscle that you use for sure, and not let it atrophy. I actually would be interested, Sally, if you don't mind, if sharing a little bit more with us about the Be Nice culture and the insights that come with that philosophy and teaching.
Well, I mean, so the very high level is that we emphasize kindness, and again, it's not my culture. We've just tried to bring it as much into our brand as possible. And we're fortunate to have Wynn on our side helping with that. But, how we interact with everybody starts with kindness, whether it's a pet parent bringing their dog in to get groomed. We're going to wait until the dog is calm and comfortable to groom. And sometimes we send dogs home like, sorry, this is too stressful for your pet. This is not kind. So that's an example. Or kindness with people, just how we treat them, how we, they're not just a commodity. They're not just employees. They're humans. They want to be connected, want to be part of something.
That definitely like emphasizes it there. It gives you some real world examples for sure. So one of the things that we talk a lot about in our agency as well, on this show, is the importance of purpose and that why, right? And as you were saying, sort of kindness is connected to that. But just like to ask you, I ask all the guests the same question: what role do you think having a well-defined purpose as an organization plays in your success?
I think that purpose is everything. I think there are lots of good services and products out there that would fail because they don't have a purpose. It really keeps us pointed in the right direction, especially as we grow. As we were talking about earlier, like scaling and growing, you've got to have that purpose. It's got to be like in your DNA, because without that purpose, you can easily get off track and you can easily lose your way. Having the clear purpose, it creates a standard for how I lead as a leader, how we hire the people that we hire, and how that we interact in general, whether it's employees or pets or pet parents. It's just everything starts from the purpose.
Love to hear you say that.
I think we talk about that a lot.
Yeah,
we talk about that a lot, of it just being kind of the guide rails sometimes for the business, and especially I think in a franchise when you've got X many businesses out there, they really, if you can have that well-defined purpose, and it can be kind of the guide rails for them, and so that they have a bit of freedom at that local level, right? But it's all within the overall higher purpose. How have you seen purpose kind of directly impact your team or franchise network? Is it in helping them have a little bit more freedom to work within what your goals are, or is it keeping everyone aligned? How do you think it's really played out? Any examples that you can think of off the top of your head?
Well, we've seen it play out across Salty Dawg in a few different ways, with our purpose being the humanization of pets. And that is also including people, because it's all about people and putting people first and putting pets first, the employees and franchisees. for the employees, it's not just a job for them. They're part of something meaningful and impactful. They're actually making a difference, one pet at a time. So they're building trust with pet parents with how they treat the pets, because that's, again, a baby for that pet parent. That creates this ripple effect across, whether it's the community, the brand, the franchisee, they're getting involved in the communities, they're creating engagement, and, you can make real differences in people's lives by doing these small little things that create these large ripple effects.
Yeah, I think that's so key. I mean, especially sometimes the small little things are what makes the difference. And, whether it's a perspective change or just, doing that little something extra. This is where we start out a lot of times in our marketing, is trying to define that higher purpose, because it allows us to tell better stories, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And, really get to the heart of what you're doing. And so when you're able to tell that better story from a higher purpose, that's how you build that emotional connection, right? That we kind of want from the marketing standpoint. And then that's how you start to build that community where, you're really connected with your not just your customers, but like you mentioned, your employees are more engaged. Because like right now, like 80% of the workforce is not engaged.
No, it's sad.
It's sad. It's horrible. It is like one of the most overlooked, I think, tragedies right now in all of business is that 4 out of every 5 people just find no meaning in what they do, and and it's like, what are we doing, and what are we going to do about it? I think. And so, go ahead.
I was gonna say, part of it, I think, is people have lost connection, especially since COVID. The COVID years, that blank spot, people have lost connection, and they really, really, humans need connection. So.
Yeah. So happy to hear you say that, Sally. It's like music to our ears. And, one of the things that we also love to say is, now in the age of AI, marketing and business, and it almost has the chance to lead to even more disconnection. Right? If we got a machine trying to communicate to a population for a human, it's maybe not going to do it the way a human would necessarily do it. So there's a real opportunity, I think, here, for us to affect the future and be able to use the tools that we have at our disposal to do just as you said, to create more connection, not less. So
yes.
I think we got a question here from our audience related to this topic. Says here, Sally, for you, regarding purpose, was there a turning point in your journey where you realized you wanted to build something more heart-centered than just a business?
Oof, probably a few of those. Yeah, I'm sure there's been more than one. It probably started when I got into franchising in general, because I was going to be a doctor. I was going to be an oral maxillofacial surgeon, and realized that just was not my lifestyle that I wanted. Loved doing it, but just wasn't the lifestyle for me. And then I kind of fell into franchising. People in franchising fall into it. That's just kind of how it goes. And it's about purpose. I have so many friends that have built these amazing brands. The ones that have really grown, they have a purpose. And for me, it was, I want to affect people on a large scale. Whether I have to do it one human at a time, that's fantastic. I'll do that. But I really want to affect people. How do I do that? Where do I start? And when this particular brand came along, so now we're fast forwarding, when this particular brand came along, I was just so excited with the mentality of the Be Nice culture behind it, the reason it was founded, all of those things. I was like, yes, I can help people with impacting their pets. Their pet babies impact them. If they're stressed out, then the pet parent is stressed out. So it was like, I can help in that little way. I can help with the communities. I can add, I can give back,
Great question from the audience. We got another one here. Let's see. Franchises often rely heavily on systems. How do you balance consistency with allowing each location to reflect its local community?
Yeah, that is a great one. So, I mean, it is all about systems and people and processes and things like that. So, the look and feel and the way we do things is all the same. So, whether it's our concierge staff interacting and those sorts of things with the pet parent, all of that is done. It's drawn out for them, for each franchisee to implement in their location. But where it becomes a little bit more fun for the franchisee, we've got this mascot. We call it Salty. I mean, Salty Dog. So they can use this mascot. It's literally like a blow up dog that you wear. We had it at our last convention. We'll have it in Miami next month. But they can do all kinds of fun things with, like, let's say that they can do marketing ads. It's on brand. It's wearing the costume. It's being the mascot, with the colors and all the stuff. But they can have fun with it. They can go interact with their community. They can interact with their social media. So we allow creativity, while putting some guide rails and offering things too, like, hey, here's some ways that we can help you do this. You need to implement it in your local. What is your local flavor? Letting them have a local flavor. Texas, very different than Georgia,
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. All right, we've got another question from the audience. Let's see. How has owning this business changed you personally, maybe in your perspective on leadership or life?
Yeah. So this is definitely, I'm constantly growing. I think that's one of the things I realized recently, and I've made mistakes. I'm going to continue making them. That's just kind of part of life. But constantly knowing that it's okay to make those mistakes and to be changing and growing. I have realized that I need my own executive coaching to help me get to that next level. And I've actually finally started that process. And I've done a lot of business coaching, but like executive leadership coaching to get myself to that next level, to keep reminding myself what's important, how to be a better leader, how to listen more. The perception's real, because sometimes what you think you're doing and putting out there is not necessarily being perceived that way. So just kind of like continuously working on that. I'm more in alignment with who I am that I've ever been. I don't know. I guess that's a good start.
Yeah, it's good perspective. Great recognition, right? It obviously demonstrates your level of consciousness of as being a leader. So I think we've got one more question here from our guests as well. It's from a LinkedIn user. If you could give one piece of advice to a founder starting a service-based business today, franchise or not non-franchise, I guess you could say, what would it be? What would that piece of advice be?
For somebody starting their business, I would say the very first thing they need to do is really understand their audience and their customer, because it's not about the business. It really is not. Like, you can have the best widget. It does not matter. But understanding your audience, understanding your customer, being able to speak to them in terms that they can hear you and understand. Because I could say, let me throw up pet grooming in my case over you all the time, and you can't hear me. That's not going to create you any brand following. That's not going to create you customers. So understanding what are their true needs and really kind of understanding the business from the bottom up. I came in from the top down and did like the reverse just because of how my role was created. But kind of understanding everything from the bottom up and what people are feeling and, in each role and in the location. And, I think that's how you start.
I know. I like that your answer is marketing related. It's really, that's like, this is where we started.
That, by the
way. Yeah, it's really, we call what we do like empathetic marketing, but there are exercises in marketing, like a simple, figuring out like a customer journey and all that stuff that are just really, they are exercises in empathy, where you're trying to get yourself in the shoes of, like you said, who your customer is, and kind of understanding what their emotions are going through that whole process and where they're at.
Well, because without a customer, you don't have a business. I mean, if you don't understand your customer, I think it all starts with that, really, really understanding customers and audience. Like, doesn't matter what you're doing,
I think that's such a great point. And I think, to your point earlier too, Sally, about creating more connection rather than just, putting something out there marketing wise or as a business, putting something out there fast versus putting something out there that's quality and is going to really resonate is so worth the investment and the time. And it just seems like, businesses today do fall into that trap of, we need to hurry and go. And they're just not really taking, the time to think about, what is their customer seeing and thinking and hearing, saying and feeling. So it's, it would definitely be advisable, from our perspective for sure, to, take that time and really, create connection, put, something out there that actually is going to resonate with your audience. So, Sally, we haven't heard much in terms of, the Salty Dawg story. We'd love to get to know it a little bit better. What has sort of been the history and the journey, if you mind sharing that with us. And then I always love to, ask as well, the other, CEOs of the franchises that come on, who is your sort of your ideal, franchisee or your ideal customer, and what sort of characteristics do they typically possess? What do you look for in them?
Okay, so that's a lot to unpack right there.
Yeah.
We'll start with the story. It's I'll try to narrow it down as quickly as I can on that. Salty Dawg was started by a man by the name of John Kansky and his wife. And one day, John takes their dog to get groomed. And backstory on John, he was actually a multi-unit franchisee, multi-unit meaning they had multiple locations, franchisee of Paul Mitchell of the schools. So that's hair, people hair. So anyways, he takes his dog to get groomed. The dog comes back. It's all stressed out. And not to mention that it has a bad haircut. So it's stressed, has a bad haircut, and he paid for this. That doesn't make sense.
Not a good experience.
No, not a good experience. So, I mean, with him and his wife being in the hair industry, they started thinking about Salty Dawg. They went to Win Claybaugh, founder of Paul Mitchell Schools, and Gary Ratner, who's involved in many franchise brands. And they started Salty Dawg. The idea is your dog's going a little bit salty, with the hair all kind of crazy, bedhead. But yeah. And then they come home and they're sweet. They're groomed and nice and happy, and that the idea is to have that humanization of the pet, to have that paw experience too, a spa experience for the pets. Yeah. That's how it started.
Got it. No, I love that phrase that you keep mentioning, the humanization of the pet. So for sure.
Mike, you threw her a double whammy question. I can't even remember the second part of your question.
The second one was in terms of franchisees. Your characteristics, who's your audience as far as that you're trying to reach and grow to scale the business?
Yeah. So thank you for reminding me of that second part. I knew I was going to forget something.
That's my fault. It's a bad co-host. Believe me, you never want to ask too complex of a question, and I failed. So, but no, by all means.
Well, I get too excitable about things too. So I'll go over here and I'll be like, wait, there was something else I got to remember to say here. So franchisees, we want people that are in alignment with our core values. I mean, that's all we've been talking about, right? That's really important. Somebody that our business is built for scalability and growth and, making revenue and all of that. But we want people that are alignment with us, people that they have big plans too. They could be single unit people to start out with and have a unit, one location or one salon and grow to more. But we want people that want to build an empire and give back at the same time with our core values tied in. I don't know if that answered the question fully.
Oh, that's
and I think just reiterating too on that repeating of your purpose and making it so well known. This is how you kind of attract the right people too, is, as long as you're about it, that's going to maybe turn some people off in some ways. Oh, this is not me. But some people like, yes, this is exactly me. This is what I want. And then you're going to get more passionate people.
We never try to sell a franchise. I'm not over here trying to sell. I don't want to sell nobody. I want them to want to be part of the business. We want to improve lives, and that as actually loyalty brands, that's their motto: improving lives, having fun, or might be the reverse. Either way, I like both. But we want them to be part of this type of culture that improves lives, that has fun, obviously builds wealth while we're doing it. But the two first things are the most important.
Yeah.
So maybe getting back, Sally, to some of the topics that we had been discussing, particularly leadership, right? But it's not just normal leadership, but leadership really with heart. And I thought this was an interesting study that was done by Harvard Business Review. They found that customers that were emotionally connected with their brands that they engaged with were twice as valuable, so 2 to 1, as satisfied customers. So maybe also with Salty Dawg, do you have any sort of special training that you do that tries to, for example, then turn into building more loyal customers?
I mean, we have a lot of training. So because we have franchisees and employees and things like that, right? There's a lot of different tiers within a franchise structure. Yeah. Everything starts with the core value and the emotional connection of, it's really who we are, and it's not what we do, it's who we are, right? So we all start with that. But it's more of a interwoven mentality into the brand, into every training that we do. So it's not like a training, it's throughout everything. We start day one.
And it continues from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we've
definitely.
Got another audience question here. Let's see. Hi, Sally. Do you have any favorite ways of showcasing your customers and their pets in your marketing that builds connection and community?
That's a great question. I cannot take credit for this. My people are the bomb. So I've got my staff members at the headquarters that do a fantastic job. And then also my franchisees. I have this one in particular in Frisco, Texas, who is just fantastic. And if you go see their reviews and check out their Instagram, you will see what I mean. But they do like the before and afters, or the first haircut, or just all kinds of fun stuff. It's interaction. We're not marketing, we're interacting. So using the mascot in there, using the actual doggies, videos of the doggies getting their haircut, or, videos of like dogs running into our salons. They're not being dragged in by their pet parent. They're excited to come in, so we use a lot of that type of stuff.
Oh, that's great. Super smart.
What lessons have you learned about maybe empathy in leading like a fast scaling business or franchise, especially one that operates in the service area?
Yeah, I think empathy, this is something that for me, I'm a very empathetic person in general. I feel everybody's everything. So we start from day one in the way we train, and the way we do anything, and the way I lead. The people that I lead, the people that I hire, whoever, it's all, again, I don't know. It's just like part of who we are and how we breathe and interact. If it's dealing with a pet, the pet's treated like our own pet. If it's dealing with an employee, I treat that employee like they're a family member. I care what they're going through. Maybe they're having a rough day. Maybe they just need to have let me listen for a minute. I'll do that. I will take that time and spend it with them to just listen. Sometimes it's just listening. Sometimes people just need to be heard. There's so much more, but sometimes people just need to be heard.
Sally, I asked this question to everyone, but before we close, but I'm going to ask it a little differently today.
Okay.
What do you say to those that don't believe love belongs in business?
Oh, they're crazy. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it like that. I think that love is essential to business, period. It shows up in the way that we care, the way that we connect, the way that we, our commitment to everything, the way we lead our teams, our customers, our communities, whatever, right? And if we keep leading with our hearts and love, the rest follows. So those people that don't think it belongs, I feel sorry for them.
Yeah, I want to let a long pause there. Yeah, I think about that just so often, like we mentioned earlier in the show, just how the huge percentage of the population that is not engaged at work. and you're
Yeah.
and how big of a problem this is. I think of like 10-year-old me. Did I really want to go to some job when I'm older, that where I found no meaning in it or no higher purpose? And how did I get here? And I think so many people, 4 out of 5 people out there, are kind of going through that. It's just a job.
Yeah.
And it just like you said, I think you're crazy. You're crazy if you think it doesn't belong in business.
No, I mean, this is where we spend most of our life. We gotta have fun.
Yeah, you're going to spend 8 hours a day just in something that has no meaning for you. It's just, how do we get there to provide meaning for people? And I think it's really, you got to start with that, how we can build love into what we're doing.
Yeah.
And keep asking that question.
Yeah, I mean, great points. I think to the humanization of the pets. I mean, we talked a lot about purpose, and even when it comes to the franchisees wanting to really be passionate for what Salty Dawg is doing. So, Sally, this has been such a heartfelt and eye-opening conversation. For our listeners that want to learn a little bit more about Salty Dawg Salon and Bakery, where should they go, or where can they learn more?
Well, if they want to learn more about Salty Dawg, they just go to our website. As you can see on my screen here, it's DAWG, so saltydawg.com. You can find us on all the social platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever. We're all over the place. So you can definitely reach us there, or our website. There's contact forms there as well. So lots of ways.
All right, Sally, thank you for joining us. And thank you to our listeners. Today's conversation sparked new ideas about building community in your business. Share this episode and subscribe, and keep those 5-star reviews coming in. And until next time, keep leading with love and purpose.